don't have to quit that. I think having your 9 to 5 is great for transition. Don't mess up the money. You're actually the cheat code. So you as a project manager, you get stuff done. Maybe you have a vision for your business, but maybe you hire out for a visionary, for a CEO, because you know how to push a project forward. You have an idea, you can see it executed, but maybe you need somebody to kind of, you've led teams. Now it's time to lead your own platform. If you're new to the channel, thank you for tapping in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching, connecting with creatives. Believe that we're all called to create. And that's why this platform was born. And if you guys don't know, I started this over 3 years ago now. And I started at a creative firm based out of Chicago. It was great. Shout out to Matt. So this platform got started because I was a recruiter. I was on the talent acquisition team, and my job was to connect with creatives from UX, UI, graphic designers, illustrators, marketing, campaign managers, project managers, and you name it. And everything you could think of as far as the creative arm of businesses, I was able to connect with high-level people that had a great portfolio, great experience, but they just needed a different opportunity. And so as I begun this podcast and this journey, I brought it to my leader from the jump. I sold him before I even got the role that podcasting was the lane. And that's partially why I think I got the opportunity, because I was a forward thinker. I was passionate about it. So I sold myself on that. And being part of other podcasts, I was able to give insight on the landscape of podcasting and how powerful it is. So this episode is about you starting your own podcast, your own platform, because you have the skills, you have the knowledge, you have the know-how, right? So you led from within. Now it's time to lead on your own. And I know it might sound scary. It might sound uncharted territories, in which it is, but I'm telling you, you could do it. It's the reason why you make 6 figures. Maybe you're not quite at 6, maybe you're at 90, 80. But for the most part, my listeners are around, 6 figures or striving or about to hit that benchmark, right? And they've led teams and they've been successful, and they're proven, they're coaching, they're consulting and not getting paid, right? So I'm all about working within the system. Cool. Don't quit your 9 to 5. Don't shut off the faucet that's, watering your garden or paying your bills. No, you don't want to do that. So I'm empowering you as the leader that has a proven track record of helping people and getting them results. So just think about this. You led teams, you consulted, you led projects, and you've been successful, but you don't think you could do it on your own. But I'm here to tell you, you can. The difference is, we're going to start with number 1, is the difference between managing people and managing intellectual property. Now, people sometimes they're predictable. And for the most part, if you've led a team, you see patterns. You can see like my last episode, the quiet cracking, the burnout, right? You can see signs. And so there's weekly check-ins. There's things you can do to communicate, to check the pulse of the team, to coach up, to manage, to empower people. And sometimes, you don't know what you're getting when you're dealing with people, but that's okay. That's the human nature of life, is being able to navigate that journey with individuals, being able to lead, being able to demonstrate, being able to have empathy for people, right? So that's you're a leader. Now, the reason why I'm big on intellectual property is because it can live without you. Just think about the last book you read. Somebody wrote that book to empower, to give knowledge, to pass on, and it will outlive the coach, the consultant, the author. It will outlive them. And I just think about the Bible. The Bible was written thousands of years ago. And for example, the book of Proverbs is still relevant today. You can use those principles because they still hold true today. Just think about that. Think about how powerful that is. Books that were read thousands of years ago, we still utilize the principles and the essence of those books. Now, another benefit of having an intellectual property is because you own it. You're able to leverage your knowledge, your experience, and sell it, and to possibly give it away. This is community coaching right here, community empowerment on a podcast. You guys are getting this for free. Now, if you want to learn more about what I do and how I'm able to help my clients start their podcast less than 3 weeks, Well, you can apply for the coaching program that I have listed below.
I want to take a pause for a second and talk about your confidence, right? You got the experience, the results, the credibility, but when it comes to putting your voice out there, fear creeps in. Who am I to do this? Does that sound familiar? That's imposter syndrome, and it's keeping you small. My coaching is about breaking through that, helping you turn your expertise into content, conversation, and coaching that builds real influence in your industry. So if you're done hiding behind titles and ready to lead with your story, head over to connectingwithcreatives.com/coaching and let's get started. I'll see you soon.
But the power of the intellectual property is you can give it away. You can empower, the generations to come, right? You can leverage that, your intellectual property, for speaking engagements, right? To collaborate with other entrepreneurs to leverage their community to sell your products. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it's so many ways, so many reasons why you should have an intellectual property. Now, you don't have to be super fancy. You don't have to overthink it, right? You just have to hone in on your skill, name it, show that it works. So you have proof, social proof that it works, and what you're doing for free for your company, right? For example, if you were a consultant for a financial firm and you've been a consultant, maybe let's say 5 years, and you're crushing it, you're at the top of the game, and people pay you, or your job is paying you a salary and bonuses for consulting with their clients. Now, when you have your intellectual property or your consulting business, then you can charge the clients, not your company's clients, but your clients, a substantial amount for consulting because you have a track record of getting companies results. So you could do that for yourself. So you can create, your podcast as top of funnel. How will other leaders and stakeholders hear about you? More than likely in today's age is going to be a podcast, because the podcast is going to be shared. Just think about this. Think about what you do. You're listening to this podcast to get information. Other stakeholders and leaders are listening to podcasts because it's more convenient for them to listen while they're on their commute or while they're working out. So we listen to get information. We listen to implement information, right? So just think about that. That's where they're at. Think about where your market is. They're not, maybe some of them, just depending on your field, maybe some of them are on different platforms, which is cool. I think you should diversify, but I think you should start with a podcast because it's easy, right? The second benefit of having an intellectual property like a podcast or a consulting business or coaching business is you could start with voice only. So you're getting those reps out, right? So I'm getting my reps out of going live, right? And doing this podcast right before I clock in my 9 to 5, right? Because the way I have it set up is like, boom, I can get in there and knock it out, before work, right? Because I have a system and I'm working a system around my priorities, right? And it's working. And the third reason why, I know I'm all over the place, but, I can go on and on about the benefits of having an intellectual property is you can pass this on. And like I said before, it's going to outlive you. Like the Bible has outlived the authors of the Bible. So your intellectual property can outlive you. And this can keep, just depending on how you structure it, just depending on what you're doing with it, this can be, feeding into your family for years to come. Just think about that. It's powerful. And I know you might be thinking like, Jay, like I can't, me? Yes, you can do it. Just think about this. When Sam Walton started Walmart, he wasn't the Sam Walton we all know today. He started from A, and the company has lived beyond him, right? Just think about that. It lived beyond him and is serving his family, right? And you think about, no matter what you think about Elon, right? And all of the things like whatever, but his intellectual properties, his companies are going to outlive him. And they're going to feed and pour into the next generation financially and legacy wise, right? So that's why it's so important I know I went off on a tangent, but having an intellectual property is in this game of coaching and where the market is and where thought leaders are, is you got to have it, right? If you don't have it, like it's going to be hard for you to win. And we're talking about your career, you're in your 9 to 5, you got to think about you as, and I said this on a previous episode before, but You are a business asset. Just think about that. You're getting paid 6 figures to be a project manager. So obviously, your employer has employed you for, let's just say, like I said, 5 years, and you've moved up the ranks. You have proof of concept, social proof that you're able to execute on your job, on your task. You're able to lead teams. You're an asset. You're also an asset to yourself too when it comes to business. Think about that. You were running your own projects, managing your own team, communicating, giving deadlines, pushing the needle. Just think about that. You've been doing it the whole time. The only difference is your name is not on the business. It's your employer. You could change that. That's easy, right? And I can show you how to do that. And again, you don't have to quit that. I think having your 9 to 5 is great for transition. Don't mess up the money, right? Don't mess up the money while you strategically grow your business, okay? Just think about that. And like I said, project management is a business asset. Like just in that same vein, you know how to get things done. You're actually the cheat code. So you as a project manager, you get stuff done. Maybe you have a vision for your business, but maybe you hire out for a visionary, for a CEO, because you know how to push a project forward. You have an idea, you can see it executed, but maybe you need somebody to kind of set the whole framework and think long-term, right? So you can hire somebody, maybe give them a small, percentage of equity. It doesn't have to be anything crazy to drive the business forward. And then that equity can either go up over time or maybe it's performance based. There's so many ways you could do it. I don't want to overcomplicate things. The last thing I want to talk about is where a lot of professionals get stuck. A lot of professionals get stuck in many areas, but that transition, right? From becoming, you guys are safe and comfortable, but you are not engaged in your business, at work, right? Because you felt it's something deeper. Something was tugging on your heart. Where you can get stuck is like, is this going to work for me? Right. And that's why the Mic Check Method coaching system will help give you that framework when it comes to starting your podcast and being able to transition. You can start your own podcast and begin to strategically transition from it, or keep it to help your 9 to 5, to amplify what you do because you love the company you are with. Maybe you don't want to quit. That's okay too. Maybe you want to create a business to stack for retirement. Maybe you started later in your professional career and you don't have enough savings or investments to retire when you want to retire. And maybe you want to add a supplemental income to your lifestyle, to your retirement to help with that. Maybe you want extra income to travel with your kids. Either way, whatever the reason is, you can start while you have your 9 to 5 and create a substantial amount of income, of freedom, of flexibility. That's what we all desire, is financial freedom, flexibility, right? That's what we strive for, in freedom. So if anything that I said today resonated with you, from you being in the business and being an asset to a business, from you managing people, you have the skills to run your business because you've led teams, right? That's all leadership. That's all communication. So you know how to persuade people to get a job done. You know how to keep people accountable, right? Versus intellectual property, right? That's going to outlive you, that you're creating for the future. Like I said, the Bible was created thousands of years ago, and now we're still using the principles on the Bible today, right? The book of Proverbs, read it. And then the last thing will be like being in a leadership role, right? That transition period, you can get stuck, but I'm here to help you get through that. Now, I've coached people over the past 20 plus years in their fitness and their mindset, right? Now we're doing it in a podcast to give them the results that they want. If this sounds like you make 6 figures, you have a proven method of coaching people, consulting, and you've led teams, and you feel a tug in your heart to do something more, to do something that's going to give you the flexibility, the freedom, right, that you want. Flexibility and freedom is what we desire. And of course, the financials, right, to come with that, like to help you supplement or replace your salary. Whatever the case may be, is if you felt like that's you and you want to start something, you want to start your podcast, but don't know how, I need you to click the link in the description, in the show notes, and let's see if we're a good fit. Apply to work with me. right? I want to work with you. I want to help you. I want to help you get the results that I know you can have. All right. If that resonated with you, apply, share this with a family member or a friend or a colleague. And I look forward to connecting with you soon. I'll see you guys on the next one.